Hi, my name is Angela and I'm from New Jersey City University, and I will be covering Responsibility 5, Administer and Manage Health Education. So one way I look at this responsibility is managing your own household. So in your household, you have to make sure that your money, your resources are being taken care of because you have your rent, your mortgage, you have your utility bills, your car payments. So you have to make sure that all your money is aligned and you pay your bills on time. You don't overspend. You overspend, you get hit with overdraft fees in your bank accounts, and no one really likes that. So also in your household, you have to make sure everyone is participating, doing what they're supposed to do. What is that? Washing clothes, cleaning the restrooms, cleaning the bathrooms, well, the same thing. The kitchen, your dishes, whatever. So if everyone isn't participating and doing their fair share, nothing in a household is going to run smoothly. So it's the same thing when you're managing a program. You have to make sure everyone in the staff is working together to make sure the program is going to where your vision is it's supposed to go, where where you see your future at, basically. So because the role of the health education specialist, basically, you work with communities, individuals, and groups in schools or colleges and different business industries. You have to make sure that everyone in your group is all in agreement and you all on the same page. You also plan activities. The activities are going to help you reach your goals for your program. And then you're going to, like I said before, make sure that all your money that is allotted for your program is being used, especially grant money, because the grant money, you want to make sure to use all of it for your program and all your activities, because then the next time you go out for a grant RFP, which is your request for proposal, you may not get as much as before because they're going to say, hey, you didn't use all of this money last year, so what makes you think you're going to use it again? So make sure you budget yourself wisely. Next are some definitions. Here we have coalitions. So basically, coalitions are groups of people from all different organizations that share your same goal, that you guys have the same vision. You have cultural competence. So basically, when you work in a community setting, let's say, you're going to come into contact with many different people, different races, and different cultures. And you have to make sure you're aware of that so that you don't offend anybody. You have to make sure you're being disrespectful. You're not being disrespectful or offensive. Then you have your goals. And the goals basically are statements of the results that you want to achieve for your program. You have your ecological approaches. So basically, what are you going to do to change your behavior? And the behavior could be physical, social, or cultural. And then there's also 5 levels of influence for health behavior. And that's your interpersonal, which is your group, your intrapersonal, which is individual, institutional, community, and public policy. Then we have the mission statement. So what is the values and overall goals of your organization? Then you have organizational development, which is a plan that helps the organization or program achieve the goals for their effectiveness and efficiency. You have the culture. So, like I said before, people come from all different beliefs and customs and values. And then you have your races, your different ethnicities. So basically, you have to be aware of who you're working with and what your surroundings are. You have strategic planning. Strategic planning is really big because it's going to help you reach the objectives of your organization's mission. So without a strategic plan, you're not going to have a successful program. Then we have the ad hoc committees. Basically, these committees are just fixer-uppers. So we have a committee that's just put together for a certain task, and once that task is completed, then that committee is done and washed away with. It no longer exists. So we're going to go to 5.2, which is obtain acceptance and support for programs. So here you have to make sure all your stakeholders are committed to the program from day one. Everyone has to be ready to go from start to end. You can't have anyone who's dropping out at the last minute, because then you're going to have to redo your whole strategic plan and change any ideas or programs that you have. You have to make sure you have all your resources, which is your money. You have to have a strong connection with your allies so that the program can continue past the time period that was allotted. And to help keep staff to help your program go. Then you have to continue to get more money and develop a new curriculum. So you want to improve your activities so that your program doesn't get stale. Basically, you want to keep people engaged and something different. You also want to you have to make sure that your goals, your mission, and the structure are all the same. They're all aligned together. Everything has to be cohesive. And you have to make sure all your goals are met. Without meeting your goals, then your program or your organization basically and somewhat failed. And that's not what you want. People are going to think you're not able to do what you were said you were going to do. And then you have to, with this, you have to do a lot of planning. So we have a logic model. So in this logic model here, we put together, let's say, tobacco-free schools. We have to do input. So your input is always going to include your staff, your money, your partnerships and stakeholders. Without these, this project here wouldn't be able to function. Who would do the day-to-day paperwork, let's say, making their connections with the partners? Without partners, you don't have any funding, because then you don't have the support, basically. And student smokers, you need your student smokers, because without them, how do you know to get them out into the community to talk about their experiences and how they feel, let's say, with smoking? You need your activities. So your activities are student advocacy, assess the policies, and educational campaign. So your student advocacies, you're going to have the students out on campus talking about why smoking isn't good for you. Then you're going to assess the policies. Policies are forever changing. So you have to make sure you keep in line what the policies of this school is, what they are, and if you're abiding by them. Then we have our outputs, which you're going to target a set amount of people, how many events are being held, and propose a new policy. So let's say we take the first one and target a set of people. So you're going to say, all right, today I want to reach 50 people. So you're going to make sure you go out there and talk to 50 people about smoking and having a tobacco-free campus. How many events are being held? So you could have one event about lung cancer, another event about the other risks of smoking, and then propose a new policy. So you're going to compare what the old policy of the school is and see if there's any discrepancies or other ways that you can change it to make it a better policy. Then we have our short term, which is a new tobacco-free policy, and to gain more support and allies. So basically, after you had your output and you proposed a new policy, you have a new tobacco-free policy as your short-term goal. So all that comparison, you have something that's new that's going to help the school become tobacco-free. And then you're going to go out and continue to gain more allies and more partnerships from people to enhance this little program. And then we have the intermediate, which everyone is following the new policy. Now, at this point, school campus, no longer being able to smoke. Can't smoke anywhere, let's say, within 1,000 feet of the whole campus. And then we have our long term. So we have less deaths related to lung cancer, less student smoking, and less secondhand smoke for non-smokers. So everyone could breathe the nice fresh air that's outside at the end. Then we have 5.3, which is to demonstrate leadership. So to demonstrate leadership, you yourself have to be a leader. You have to make sure that you influence people, you make good decisions, and you're a hard worker as well. You have to be very effective, good decision makers, again, and you have to conduct yourself very professionally and make sure you always uphold yourself to the code of ethics for health educators. Also, with the strategic planning, there are 10 steps that you need to follow to make sure that you make your program very successful. So the first one, you have to initiate and agree on a strategic plan process. So basically, who are you going to have involved in this planning? Then you have to clarify organizational mandates. So your sources, your policies, and your values. Then you have to identify your stakeholders. Who are they? Are they internal or external? Then you have to develop and reframe. So your mission statement and your values. So what are your values? What values do you want to instill? And you have to assess the environment. So with assessing the environment, you have to do basically a SWOT analysis. So you have to go by what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. And once you can figure out what those are, then you could continue to plan for your program. You have to identify strategic issues. So what challenges do you face, and how are you going to fix them and address them? You have to formulate tactics to manage strategic issues. So what are you going to do if you hit a bump in the road? How do you plan to make those improvements? You have to review and adopt a strategic plan. So you always have to make sure all your allies and your partners and your stakeholders are all in that plan, in that review, so that everyone continues to be on the same page. Then you establish an effective organizational vision for the future. So does your vision for your organization still align with what you want? And then you have to develop an effective implementation process. Inventory, so basically you have to make sure everyone that you need on board is on board. You have to set your priorities. You have to make sure that schedules, dates, and classes are being held. Then the last step is to reassess this strategic process. So with reassessing, this is where you go, and if any changes that need to be made can be made here. And reassessment is pretty big because you can, what you figured out in the beginning, you say, yes, everything was correct, but then at the end you're like, hold up, there's nothing, I don't like this, let's say this curriculum anymore. You right then and there you can go and change it and add in a different curriculum. So for me, I work in a university setting, and I always have to make sure that I know what the school's policies are. So as a health educator, no matter where you're working at, you have to make sure you follow all rules and regulations. And they're constantly changing, so you always have to make sure you're on top of it. Also in this competency, you have your ecological approaches and your organizational development come into play. For your ecological approaches, basically it helps you make your program more successful. And with your organizational development, it helps you to get a feel of the culture for your organization. And there are 7 characteristics for this, and they're innovation and risk-taking, attention to detail, outcome orientation, people orientation, team orientation, aggressiveness, and stability. There's also 5 things that contribute to the culture of your organization, and that's your assumptions, your values, behavioral norms, behavioral patterns, and symbols and rituals that portray its messages. For the code of ethics, you remember to always abide by them. That's a really big thing. And you always have to make sure you fulfill your organization's mission by planning, by strategic planning, supporting technical assistance, and always coming up with new ideas. Keep everything fresh and keep everyone engaged. Also, we have here 5.4. So we manage human resources. So manage human resources. Human resources is the key to any organization. It keeps everyone together. It's the glue, basically. You need to be a team player to help. And being a team player, you can implement your program. So you always got to have volunteers in your staff. With your volunteers are key because everyone is willing to help. And we don't always have money to pay everyone who wants to be on board with us. So volunteers are the people who are going to make your program be very successful. You have to make sure you're a community resource person, basically. You're the face of the community. You're the face of your organization. You have to. Your main goal is to create change, and change is. Not everyone likes change, but change is always a good thing. You may not see it in the beginning, but in the long run, it is. Like I said, with the laws, you have to make sure you follow your HIPAA laws, which is your Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996. You have to do the Equal Pay Act of 1963. The Employee Benefits and Compensation, your Family Leave Act of 1993. So you have to make sure you know all your federal laws, your federal, local, and state agency laws and policies. For your organization, you also have to make sure you select people who can achieve your goals. You want people on board that's going to help you. You don't want anyone who, I want to see your organization grow, but outside of work, they're talking about the organization, how much they don't like it. You want everyone to be as passionate about it as you are. Then sometimes you work with different teams of people. So it's not everyone, let's say you're in administration, you're not only going to work with people from administration, you're going to work with people who are in the budget department or in, what's another department we have? Basically all different departments that we, that work together, you're going to be in, you're going to help with. And not everyone has the same discipline, basically. So one person may be good at graphic arts, but is working as an administrative assistant for the budget department. Maybe you want to take that person and move them to your graphic department, because then they can come up with new flyers to put out for a program that you're trying to have. And you have to make sure that everyone is trained. Training is key because everyone has the tools that they need to go and deliver the message, your mission, out to the community. And you also have to make sure that all the employees have all their performances are up to par. To make sure you partner up and collaborate with other organizations, because these people, you never know who you meet out in the world. You can have a person from a nonprofit working with, let's say, a person with a for-profit organization, but we all have the same goal in mind, so we all just going to go ahead and collaborate. Then we have here to facilitate partnerships and support of health education. So here again, everything is about partnerships. You want to gain all the acceptance that you possibly can. You want more friends. That's all you want, is more friends to be able to expand your program. And this concludes Responsibility 5.